The world on a daily basis is producing outcasts as a result of stark discrimination, social exclusion, and racial segregation. Discrimination undermines equality in society. Discrimination may also exacerbate social cleavages and weaken social solidarity, and in the context of employment, can undermine labor standards and lead to an inefficient use of skills. The importance of eliminating discrimination is reflected in Irish law, which prohibits discrimination in a variety of settings and on a range of grounds. Yet, discrimination is often difficult to detect and measure, as discriminatory behavior is rarely observed directly. Ethnic minorities and marginalized groups are mostly affected, and the menace is still on the rise. They are often considered or treated less favorably due to their gender, civil status, economic status, religion, sexual orientation, migration status, race, disability, and being a member of ethnic community. In a bid to curb this ugly trend, however, Amdala Africa Foundation, AMDAF, a registered charity organization in the Republic of Ireland, presents Diversity Education and Connection as part of Community Integration and Diversity Project 2020-2021 to promote social inclusion, integration, recognition, justice, and support for those facing discrimination. The project is funded by the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. This project is poised to motivate and educate the community and policy makers through educational programs on several issues such as inclusion, domestic violence, economic empowerment, personal development, mental health, gender equality and rights, and other matters affecting people of African descent, ethnic minorities, and marginalized groups, especially in Galway and across Ireland. It is therefore a strong vision that AMDAF projects diversity education for all, helping to bring about equal opportunity, recognition, respect, and being treated justly. Drawing from the 9 grounds of discrimination covered by Irish equality legislation, we spoke to individuals who have faced discriminations based on one or more grounds, what identity and diversity meant to them, and how we can create a safe, inclusive, and equitable community in Ireland. Cameron Kegron is currently a PhD student at NUI Galway and Director AMAC LGBT Galway. Cameron speaks on diversity and identity.
Identity, first of all, to me means being seen, being valued in the community, having a voice, I suppose being an active member of our society that's respected and I suppose protected within our wider society. Having that sense of yourself, your sense of belonging, your sense of ownership on who you are and what you are is really important. And when I think about identity, that's what I think about, the importance of that voice and the importance of that value. And then if I look at diversity, particularly within the LGBT plus community, it's around the wide range of sexual orientations and gender identities that people in our community have and share and celebrate. And celebration is a key word for me around diversity. It's celebrating the diversity within our community, the intersections we have with other communities as well, and again, celebrating the uniqueness that we bring to the world and valuing that as well.
Nikki Adeyemi is a migrant youth student, young mom of 2, who previously lived in Direct Provision Center. She emphasizes the need for a sense of self and understanding who you are.
Identity for me is knowing oneself, like who you are and where you belong as well. But as a migrant young youth in Direct Provision Center, like when you're put into a Direct Provision Center, you have your sense of self, but then over the years that gets stripped down because you're waiting. Like, for example, you can be a pharmacist before you came to, Ireland or where you seek refuge, but then you're not in practice, you're not using that in practice. And again, to go to school as well, there's some barriers there. For example, maybe your language is different, you're not good at English. And then, for example, like, there's so many youths that they want to achieve better, they want to achieve more than what they are limited to, but not having the access to, you know, even with stamp 4, like, you need to be in the country 3 years prior to that with your stamp 4, so you have to wait 3 years, and then trying to look for work someplace, like, they might not give you work. But for example, if you're 45 and you've lost your practice, you can't go to school because firstly you need to learn English, and then you have not even up to 3 years stay with your stamp 4. You can't further that education to better what your profession is. So it's a bit difficult for people like age 45 even, or even 25 onwards, to achieve these things.
Lorraine Lally is a practicing barrister and mediator in Dublin and on circuit. She is a proud Galway woman living with epilepsy. As a member of Access for All Galway and Vice Chair Galway Disability Forum, she highlights why it is important to actively include everyone without discriminations, especially people living with disabilities.
Disability is an interesting area because it impacts on everyone. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Irish, traveller. Disability impacts on every part of our community, and at any time in your life you could develop a disability. So I think it's the one area where it meshes with other identities as well, and to be an inclusive society we have to be aware of those needs of people with disabilities and aware of how our behaviour affects them. So as active citizens we should make a conscious effort to include others and to look at a door and say, could you get in there with a wheelchair? Could you not get in there with a wheelchair? What would it be like to get parking in town if I didn't have my legs? And very often we don't think about it. We live in a society where there's a constant focus on people's abilities and on their strengths. I'm a woman with a disability. I'm also an Irish person. I'm an Irish-born person. And on top of that then, I'm not a member of the traveller community. So the identity issue with disability is complex because your gender can impact on it as well. And for many people out there with disabilities, they're not included in society. They don't have access to housing. They don't have access to a good health system. And they don't have access to public transport at times as well, for those living in rural Ireland like myself and relying on neighbours to bring you here, there and everywhere. So I would say people with disability in particular are the most marginalised group in society. And I say that with the greatest respect for all the people I've worked with over the years, but people with disabilities are particularly marginalised in Ireland.
Diversity, no doubt, is strength, and it is a strong element of identity, according to Rose Foley, a member of Galway Access for All. She believes that accepting who you are is key in recognizing your real self, thus identity.
The first thing we have to do, that has to be done at least, is for people to acknowledge that this is what we need to do. We need to build a community that supports everybody, able-bodied and the disabled. Right now there isn't that belief that it really can be done or that it should be done. And that's why we're in groups like Access for All, which campaigns for universal access. And universal access is just making sure that anything that's built or constructed in the environment is accessible to everybody. And whether that could be a drop curb on a footpath, or a handle, a grab handle in the bathroom, or a lift in a theater. And you know, in actuality, we're only as disabled as society tolerates. You know, if a person in a wheelchair can take a lift up to the second floor of a cinema, then they're not disabled anymore. They're able-bodied, and in that way, you know, you're creating a better environment, not just for people with disabilities, but for everybody. You're helping the whole community. And my big thing is that none of us is perfect. You know, none of us is perfect, and we all have some form of disability. It's just that some are more obvious than others. When we embrace our diversities, then we're really accepting each other's identity, and that diversity can be it can be our our age, our skin color, our gender, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, or whether you're able-bodied or disabled. And in one sense, we are all different, but in the broader sense, we're all the same.
Anne-Marie Stokes is a member of Traveller Community. She is the education project worker for Galway Traveller Movement. She emphasizes power of collaboration for any society to move forward regardless of background, race and ethnicity.
First of all, I think it's very important that different agencies, we collaborate together, especially when coming from either community development or human rights perspective, and that everyone's identity can be respected in Ireland, that we're going to be living in a more inclusive community, accepting community. So collaboration is very important, and that we all have allies to fight alongside of us, and that we're basically all really fighting for maybe different goals but still coming from the same kind of perspectives in terms of acceptance and in terms of our human rights, having them validated. And really I think that needs to be put in solid into law and so on. And I think also it's important, like when dealing with service providers, that they really work with people from all these different communities so that their voices can be heard, and also that the public sector duty must really be put into place.
As for Flutura Rebani, a volunteer and advocate for inclusion, migrant women empowerment and low-income earners, abundance of choices differentiate people, not what society told them.
By creating an inclusive education by open the doors for people independently of their economical status or social status or religion status or immigration status. In this way, opening the door to an inclusive education, we are just giving a hand to have a better society in the future, so these families can afford to buy goods and services for themselves and for their people with who they live. I wanted just to add that unskilled people or unskilled laborers, they are a very important chain, a very significant chain of the economical flow. So if this chain would not be there, they would have something missing there, and sometimes we consider these people unskilled, which in my opinion is wrong, because these people, they have skills, they develop skills. Just because they don't have a piece of paper who is accepting these skills doesn't mean they already don't have them. So I would like that all these people who are considered unskilled to be considered skilled people, to be given importance, to be given hearing, and to know their contribution. Because in the end, one skilled person working and unskilled person working, they are both of them giving the contribution to the society, to the community. So if we focus in the contribution, they will see they are equal. But then if we focus in the wages, then we will see that something is disbalanced.
Innocent Oga, a volunteer and advocate for integration, inclusion, asylum seekers, refugees and ethnic minorities, stresses that the best way to include diversity in an appropriate way is to make everybody equal, regardless of languages and races.
Whether languages, color, or food, culture, doesn't matter. It's just to bring everybody under the same umbrella, making sure that we all are, looking towards the same direction, not focusing some people on one side because of color or whatsoever, and facing others to the other side, making everybody equal as we are. The black colors are being looked down upon as if they cannot perform well like the white ones. But we all are all the same thing. I believe one thing, that what a white man can do, a black man can equally do. It's all about, studying and to also make use of what you have been able to study to achieve the same aim and the same objective. Because we speak the same language, like English is a general language. We speak the same English that they speak. So definitely we can also use it to achieve the same purpose.
Speaking on acknowledging who we are and why we must respect our beliefs, Imam Ibrahim Ahmed Nunan, theologian, lecturer in Christian and Islamic theology and philosophy, Imam of Galway Ahmadiyya Mosque, says everyone in the society must be carried along. Our community must be inclusive and fair.
Those Muslims who migrate from the various countries they come from, whether that will be from Africa and the different nations within Africa, or whether that will be from the Middle East or Pakistan or India, wherever they come from, the first thing they must keep in mind is that when they enter any country, but in particularly in Ireland, they should try their best to become part of this society. And part of this society I mean by first and foremost being grateful in the sense that they've been able to come to a country like Ireland to find work, to be educated, to start a new life even. So they first should make sure that they themselves act upon all the laws and obey all laws of the land of this country, or any country for that matter. But more importantly, I believe that for Muslims who migrate into Ireland to wish for a fair society, which is an absolute right, is to ensure that you are yourself participating in that right to fairness by, as I already mentioned, acting upon the laws of this land and upholding your own dignity, your own virtues and ethics and principles in society, so that those who watch you and observe you will come to appreciate you, and therefore you're helping those others to help assimilate you into a more all-inclusive society. This is how I think it should be done, because in every country, but in Ireland in particular, we have doctors who are from Africa, who are from the Middle East, who are from all around the world, who are giving back into the country. And therefore, if you have others who start businesses, others who become teachers, or maybe even join the law enforcement agencies or the armed forces, all these are being seen to giving back into the country. But those who are born into this country from families from anywhere from Africa, like from Ghana, Nigeria, or from India or Pakistan, those children who are born from those families into Ireland, these are the building blocks of a fairer society of the future. Because these children will, of course, come from different cultural backgrounds. Their parents may be from different African countries or Arab countries or wherever it may be. But they will essentially see themselves as being Irish, born on the island of Ireland. These children, if they're nurtured in all those morals and principles and ethics, and they bring that back into society, they're building a greater Ireland of the future. This is how I feel that if we do this, Muslims who migrate into Ireland, we ourselves will be creating a fair society and helping to build that future.
Abayomi Adedeji is a practicing social care worker, African-Irish, who advocates for an articulate strategies and social inclusion.
Social inclusion where our value and our belief are respected. And in this, we can live in a safe environment. And also, Ireland has given us an enabled environment where we from Africa can triumph and build on. And in spite of this, there is still much to be done in Ireland, because I want to see Ireland of my dream where a black people can be in a big ball in a square, where black people from African descent can be part of national rugby team, while people from Africa that went to college will practice what they learn in college, what they graduate on their profession, not going to do a manual work because they can't get a job. That is what my island dream. That's what I dream in Ireland. And also, by us to be integrated into community, I believe we need some knowledge. And the word of God says, my people are perished for lack of knowledge. And we can get all those knowledge through symposium organized, through interview, through multicultural society event. All this can be where we can get all this knowledge from. And I believe the island of my dream will be actualized one day.
The essence of this project is to listen to those who have been impacted by discrimination based on their identities, for us to understand a range of social contexts in which discrimination can occur, and provide us approaches through which we can all create a safe, inclusive and equitable community. AMDAF's Community Integration and Diversity Project 2020-2021 is funded by the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. Amdala Africa Foundation, AMDAF, works in partnership with individuals, groups, businesses and agencies in the community to provide information, representation and advocate for change on behalf of women of African descent and their families in the community. So, you too can also be a part of it by donation and volunteering.